A German shepherd was tied to a pole during a thunderstorm. What baby did next left everyone in tears. What you're about to listen to might just be the most heartwarming story of the year. Make sure you're sitting down for this one. You won't believe what happens. The skies above Pine Hollow darkened as massive storm clouds gathered, painting the late afternoon in shades of charcoal and slate. 4-year-old Lily Morgan pressed her tiny nose against the cold window glass, watching as the first fat raindrops splattered against the pane. Something was wrong. She felt it deep in her bones, the way children sometimes do, sensing things adults have forgotten how to feel. "Storm's coming in fast," her father, Jack, muttered from behind her, his weathered hands adjusting the living room curtains. "Gonna be a bad one." Thunder rumbled in the distance, a deep bass vibration that Lily felt through her fingertips on the window. But that wasn't what bothered her. She tilted her head, listening for something else, something beyond the coming storm. "Lilybug, come away from the window," her mother Sarah called from the kitchen, where the comforting aroma of vegetable soup simmered on the stove. "Lightning's dangerous." But Lily didn't move. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the darkening yard that stretched toward the dense tree line marking the edge of their property. Wind whipped through the branches of the old maple tree, sending leaves spiraling into the air. "Mommy," Lily whispered, her breath fogging the glass. "Someone's crying outside." Sarah wiped her hands on a dishcloth and joined her daughter at the window. "It's just the wind, honey. Wind can sound like all sorts of things." She gently tugged Lily's shoulder. "Come help me set the table." Lily reluctantly stepped away but glanced back one last time. A flash of lightning illuminated the yard for a split second, and she thought, just maybe, she saw a shadow by the old fence post. "Daddy," Lily said, her voice soft but insistent as she tugged on Jack's shirt. "I heard someone crying by the big tree." Jack sighed, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "Princess, it's your imagination. The storm plays tricks on your ears." Sarah set 3 bowls on the kitchen table as another crash of thunder shook the windows. "Your soup's getting cold, Lily," she said, trying to distract her daughter from whatever was troubling her. Lily climbed onto her chair but didn't reach for her spoon. Her eyes drifted toward the window again. "But what if someone needs help?" "Nobody's out in this storm, honey," Jack said between spoonfuls. "Only crazy people and—" Lightning flashed, followed immediately by a deafening crack of thunder that made the lights flicker. In the momentary silence that followed, a distinct sound floated through the air. A whimper, high-pitched and frightened. Sarah and Jack froze, spoons midway to their mouths. "That's what I heard," Lily exclaimed, jumping up from her chair. "See? Someone is crying." Sarah and Jack exchanged worried glances. "Probably just a branch scraping against the side of the house," Jack suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. The sound came again, unmistakably the cry of something in distress. "We have to help," Lily insisted, already running to the closet where her yellow raincoat hung. "Lily Morgan, you are not going outside in this weather," Sarah said firmly, but her eyes betrayed her concern. What if there was someone, or something, out there? Jack pushed his chair back from the table. "I'll take a quick look. Probably just a raccoon or something got itself stuck." He reached for his raincoat and boots. "I'm coming too," Lily declared, struggling to zip up her coat. "Absolutely not," Sarah began, but then noticed the determined set of her daughter's jaw, a mirror image of her own stubbornness. "Fine, we'll all go. Quick check. 5 minutes tops." Sarah grabbed flashlights from the kitchen drawer while Jack helped Lily with her rain boots. The wind howled as Jack opened the back door, nearly yanking it from his grasp. Rain lashed at them horizontally, stinging their faces. "This is crazy," Sarah shouted over the storm, shielding the flashlight with her hand. "We should go back inside." But Lily was already stepping into the yard, her yellow raincoat glowing like a tiny beacon in the gathering darkness. Another flash of lightning revealed her small figure moving determinedly toward the tree line. "Lily!" Jack called, splashing after her. "Lily, wait!" The rain came down in sheets now, reducing visibility to just a few feet. Sarah followed, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and maternal protectiveness. The ground had already turned to mud, sucking at their boots with each step. "There!" Lily shouted suddenly, pointing toward a cluster of trees near the old fence. "Over there!" Jack aimed his flashlight where she pointed. The beam cut through the rain, illuminating nothing but wet grass and wind-whipped bushes. "I don't see anything, Lilybug." "Listen," Lily insisted, standing perfectly still despite the rain pelting her coat. They all froze, straining to hear over the storm's fury. For several seconds, nothing but the wind and rain registered. Then, a soft, plaintive cry, barely audible above the weather's rage. Sarah gasped. "Jack! I heard it too!" Jack moved his flashlight beam more slowly this time, sweeping the area inch by inch. The light caught something, a flash of color against the dark landscape. "There is something over there." They approached cautiously, Jack in the lead, Sarah keeping a tight grip on Lily's hand. As they got closer, the shape resolved itself into a form that made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. A large German shepherd, soaked to the skin, lay partially on its side next to an old fence post. A frayed rope bound its neck to the post, pulled so tight the dog could barely move. Its eyes reflected the flashlight beam with a dull, exhausted gleam. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered, her free hand flying to her mouth. "Who would do such a thing?" The dog made no move to growl or bark as they approached, just watched them with wary, defeated eyes. Its coat, dark with rain, clung to a frame that was clearly underfed. One paw was raw and bloody, as if it had been trying to escape for hours. "Poor thing," Jack murmured, crouching down a few feet away. "Easy now, bud. We're not going to hurt you." Lily pulled against her mother's grasp. "He's scared, Mommy. Let me help." "Lily, no," Sarah began, but Lily had already slipped free. Before either parent could react, Lily approached the German shepherd with slow, deliberate movements. Jack tensed, ready to snatch his daughter away if the dog showed any aggression. But something remarkable happened instead. As Lily drew near, the dog's tail gave a single weak thump against the mud. Its eyes, which had seemed so vacant moments before, focused on the child with what could only be described as hope. "It's okay," Lily said softly, her voice somehow carrying over the storm. "We found you. You're not alone anymore." Sarah watched in amazement as her 4-year-old daughter knelt in the mud beside a strange dog that, by all rights, should have been unpredictable in its distress. Yet the animal remained calm, its eyes never leaving Lily's face. "Jack," Sarah whispered, "the rope." Jack nodded, carefully approaching the other side of the dog. "Let me get this off you, buddy," he said gently, examining the knot that secured the rope to the post. It was pulled cruelly tight and swollen with rain. "Need my pocket knife." As Jack worked on the rope, Lily placed her small hand on the dog's heaving side. "You're so cold," she murmured. Without hesitation, she unzipped her raincoat and draped it over the shivering animal. "Lily," Sarah gasped, "you'll catch pneumonia." But Lily didn't seem to notice the rain now soaking her t-shirt. "He needs it more, Mommy," she said simply. The dog's eyes drifted closed for a moment, as if savoring the small kindness. When they opened again, they held something Sarah had never seen in an animal before, a deep, profound gratitude that made her throat tighten with emotion. Jack finally cut through the rope, carefully unwinding it from the dog's neck. An angry red line marked where it had dug into the fur and skin. "Who would leave an animal like this?" he said, anger edging his voice. "And in a storm, no less?" Another flash of lightning illuminated the scene. The crouching man, the kneeling child, the rescued dog, and for an instant, Sarah thought she saw a figure watching them from deeper in the trees. When she blinked, it was gone. "Jack," she said urgently, "I think we should get back to the house, all of us." Jack nodded grimly, pocketing his knife. "Can you walk, boy?" he asked the dog, gently stroking its wet head. The German shepherd attempted to rise, legs trembling with the effort. It managed to stand but swayed dangerously. "He's too weak," Sarah said, moving closer despite her earlier caution. "And that paw looks infected." "I'll carry him," Jack decided, handing his flashlight to Sarah. "Lily, stay with your mom." Jack carefully slid his arms beneath the large dog, bracing himself for the weight. The animal whimpered once, but didn't struggle as Jack lifted him. "Good boy," he murmured. "We're taking you home." Lily hovered anxiously nearby. "Is he going to be okay, Daddy?" "We're going to do our best, Princess," Jack replied, adjusting his grip on the waterlogged animal. "Let's get him inside and warmed up first." They made their way back through the worsening storm, Sarah leading with both flashlights, Lily tucked close to her side, and Jack following with his burden. The dog's eyes remained fixed on Lily the entire journey. as if she represented his only hope in the world. Sarah pushed open the back door, quickly grabbing towels from the laundry room. "Bring him in here," she directed, spreading the towels on the kitchen floor. "Lily, go change into dry clothes right away." "But I want to help the dog," Lily protested, her thin shoulders shaking with cold. "You can help after you're dry," Sarah insisted. "You'll make yourself sick otherwise." Reluctantly, Lily headed for her bedroom, casting worried glances back at the German Shepherd as Jack gently laid him on the towels. The dog's eyes followed her until she disappeared from view. "Never seen anything like that," Jack murmured, accepting a dry towel from Sarah. "Did you see how he looked at her? Like she was, I don't know, an angel or something." Sarah nodded, carefully patting the dog's soaked fur with another towel. "I've heard animals can sense things about people, especially children, but this was different. It's like they recognized each other somehow." Jack examined the raw wound on the dog's paw while Sarah checked for a collar or any identification. There was nothing, just the cruel mark left by the rope. "We should call the vet," Sarah said, reaching for her phone. "That paw needs professional attention, and who knows how long he's been out there without food or water." "All the way out here? In this storm?" Jack shook his head. "Roads might be flooded already. We'll have to do what we can tonight and call first thing in the morning." Lily reappeared in dry pajamas, her hair wrapped in a towel. She carried her favorite stuffed bear, which she placed beside the German Shepherd. "Bear will keep you company," she told the dog seriously. "He helps me when I'm scared." The dog's tail thumped weakly against the towels. Sarah filled a shallow bowl with water and placed it near the dog's head. "Easy now," she cautioned as the animal began lapping desperately. "Not too fast, or you'll make yourself sick." Jack rummaged through the medicine cabinet, returning with antiseptic and gauze. "This'll sting, buddy," he warned, carefully cleaning the injured paw. The dog winced but remained still, his eyes now moving between Lily and her parents with growing trust. As Sarah warmed some chicken broth on the stove, Lily sat cross-legged beside their unexpected guest, speaking to him in a low, soothing voice that neither parent could quite hear. "What should we call him?" Lily asked suddenly, looking up at her parents. Sarah and Jack exchanged glances. "Honey," Sarah began gently, "we don't know if he belongs to someone. He might just be lost." "He doesn't belong to anybody," Lily said with absolute certainty. "He told me." Jack raised an eyebrow. "He told you, did he?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Not with words, but I know." She stroked the dog's damp head. "His name is Max." "Max?" Sarah repeated, bringing over the warm broth. "That's his name," Lily insisted. "He likes it." As if to confirm her statement, the dog's ears perked up slightly at the name, and his tail gave another thump against the floor. "Well, I'll be," Jack murmured. "Max it is then, at least for tonight." As Max cautiously lapped at the warm broth, the storm outside intensified. Rain pounded against the roof, and the wind howled around the corners of the house. But inside, wrapped in towels and surrounded by gentle hands, Max's eyes began to lose their haunted look. Sarah noticed something else too, a change in Lily. Her daughter had always been sensitive and kind, but tonight she displayed a quiet confidence that seemed beyond her years. The way she sat with Max, the way she seemed to know exactly what he needed, it was almost uncanny. "Time for bed, Lilybug," Sarah said after they'd done all they could for Max. "It's way past your bedtime." "But what about Max?" Lily protested. "He needs me." Max lifted his head at the sound of his new name, his eyes fixed on Lily with that same intense connection. "Max will be right here in the morning," Jack promised. "He needs rest now, just like you do." Lily considered this, then nodded reluctantly. She leaned close to Max's ear and whispered something neither parent could hear. The dog blinked slowly, as if acknowledging her words. "What did you tell him?" Sarah asked as she led Lily toward her bedroom. "That he's safe now," Lily replied simply, "and that I would protect him from the bad people." Sarah paused, a chill running down her spine that had nothing to do with her damp clothes. "Bad people? What bad people, Lily?" Lily yawned, suddenly seeming very much like a normal, tired 4-year-old. "The ones who hurt him, Mommy. The ones who are still out there?" Sarah tucked her daughter into bed with an uneasy feeling settling in her stomach. After making sure Lily was asleep, she returned to the kitchen where Jack sat beside Max, gently stroking the dog's now dry fur. "He's looking better already," Jack observed. "Amazing what a little kindness can do." Sarah sank into a chair, watching the German Shepherd's steady breathing. "Jack, Lily said something strange before she fell asleep, about bad people still being out there." Jack's hand stilled on Max's coat. "Kids pick up on things. She probably just realized whoever left Max like that wasn't very nice." "Maybe," Sarah said, but she couldn't shake the memory of that shadowy figure she thought she'd glimpsed in the trees. "Do you think we should call the sheriff? Report finding him?" "First thing tomorrow," Jack agreed, "though I doubt they'll do much. People abandon animals all the time out here." His voice hardened. "Cowards." Max stirred in his sleep, a soft whimper escaping his throat. Jack resumed his gentle petting, and the dog settled again. "Well, one thing's for sure," Sarah said, glancing toward Lily's bedroom. "If no one claims him, I don't think we'll ever hear the end of it from our daughter." Jack chuckled. "You saw them together. It's like they've known each other their whole lives." Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the Morgan home, a strange new peace had settled, the kind that comes when fate brings together souls that somehow belong together. Neither Sarah nor Jack could explain the connection between their daughter and the rescued German Shepherd. Neither could they explain the sense that finding Max was somehow more significant than a simple act of kindness. As they finally headed to bed themselves, leaving Max comfortably settled on his nest of towels and blankets, Sarah paused at the kitchen window. The rain still lashed against the glass, but for an instant she could have sworn she saw lights moving among the trees where they had found Max, tiny pinpricks of brightness that vanished when she blinked. "Jack," she whispered, "come look at this." But by the time Jack joined her, whatever she'd seen was gone, swallowed by the storm and the darkness beyond. Morning light filtered through the kitchen windows, casting warm rectangles across the floor, where Max lay curled on his makeshift bed. Lily was already there, sitting cross-legged beside him, her small hand resting on his back. She looked up when Sarah entered, a serious expression on her young face. "Max had bad dreams," she announced, stroking the dog's head. "He was running from someone." Sarah paused, coffee mug halfway to her lips. "How do you know that, honey?" Lily shrugged as if the answer was obvious. "I just know." Sarah watched as Max lifted his head to nuzzle Lily's arm, his eyes clearer than they had been the night before. The storm had passed, leaving behind a stillness broken only by dripping tree branches and distant birdsong. Jack appeared in the doorway, already dressed for the day. "How's our patient?" he asked, crouching to examine Max's bandaged paw. "Better," Lily replied confidently, "but he's still afraid." "He's got good reason to be," Jack said, gently peeling back the gauze. "But this is looking better already, not as swollen." Sarah set her coffee down and pulled out her phone. "I'll call Dr. Bennett, see if she can fit us in this morning." As Sarah dialed the vet's number, a sharp knock at the front door startled them all. Max immediately struggled to his feet, a low growl rumbling in his chest as he placed himself between Lily and the doorway. "Easy, boy," Jack murmured, reaching for the dog's makeshift collar, a piece of soft rope they'd fashioned as a temporary measure. "Sarah, can you get that?" Sarah nodded, setting her phone down. Through the front window, she could make out a patrol car in their driveway. "It's Sheriff Mills," she called back to Jack, opening the door. Sheriff Tom Mills stood on their porch, hat in hand. "Morning, Sarah," he said with a nod. "Heard you folks might have found a stray dog last night?" Sarah's eyebrows rose. "How did you—" "Mrs. Denton up the road called it in," the sheriff explained. "Said she saw flashlights by your property line during the storm." "Nosy as ever," Jack muttered, appearing in the hallway with Max still secured by the makeshift leash. The dog's eyes were fixed on the sheriff, his body tense. Sheriff Mills whistled low. "That's a fine-looking shepherd." His eyes narrowed at the healing mark around Max's neck. Though someone wasn't treating him right. "We found him tied to a post," Sarah explained, letting the sheriff inside. "In the worst of the storm. If Lily hadn't heard him." "Your little girl heard him?" Sheriff Mills asked, keeping a respectful distance from Max, who hadn't stopped growling softly. "I heard him crying," Lily said, appearing from behind her father's legs. "He was waiting for me." The sheriff's eyebrows shot up at this, but he nodded seriously. "Well, that was mighty brave of you, young lady." He turned back to Sarah and Jack. "Thing is, I've had reports of a missing German Shepherd from the Westfield area. Owner's real broken up about it. Sarah felt her heart sink, even as Lily's face crumpled. "No!" the little girl cried, throwing her arms around Max's neck. "He's not theirs anymore. They hurt him." "Lily," Jack said gently, "if Max has a family looking for him—" "They're not his family," Lily insisted, tears welling in her eyes. "They tied him up and left him. He told me." Sheriff Mills cleared his throat awkwardly. "Well now, I'm not saying for sure it's the same dog. Just came to take a look." He crouched down, observing Max more carefully. "No collar, you said?" "Just the rope," Jack confirmed. "Tied so tight it left marks." The sheriff's face darkened. "That's so?" He stood up, adjusting his hat. "Well, might not be the same dog then. The one reported missing had tags." He pulled out a small notebook. "Mind if I get your statement about where and how you found him? Animal control might want to investigate." As Sarah led the sheriff to the kitchen table, Lily remained by Max's side, whispering reassurances that only he could hear. The dog's growling had stopped, but his eyes never left the uniformed man. After taking their statements and examining the cut rope Jack had saved as evidence, Sheriff Mills prepared to leave. "I'll file this report," he said, tucking his notebook away. "But I don't expect much to come of it. Hard to prove who abandoned an animal unless someone saw it happen." He paused at the door, looking back at Max and Lily. "You folks planning to keep him?" Jack and Sarah exchanged glances. "We'll see what the vet says," Jack replied carefully, conscious of Lily's hopeful eyes. "But if no legitimate owner comes forward—" The sheriff nodded, understanding the unspoken message. "Well, for what it's worth, he seems like he's found a good home." With a tip of his hat, he headed back to his patrol car. As the sheriff's car disappeared down their driveway, Sarah turned to Jack. "What do you think? About what the sheriff said?" Jack ran a hand through his hair. "I think if someone was missing a dog they loved, they wouldn't have left him tied to a post in a thunderstorm." Lily, who had been listening intently, nodded in solemn agreement. "The bad people are lying," she stated with absolute conviction. Sarah and Jack exchanged another glance, both unsettled by their daughter's certainty. Before they could probe further, Sarah's phone rang. Dr. Bennett's office calling back. "They can see Max at 11, Sarah announced after a brief conversation. "Max is coming home with us after, right?" Lily asked anxiously. Sarah knelt beside her daughter. "Honey, we have to make sure he's healthy first. And the vet will check if he has a microchip. That's something inside animals that tells who they belong to." "He belongs with us," Lily insisted, but her lower lip trembled. Jack scooped her up. "Let's just take it one step at a time, princess. Right now, let's get Max some breakfast. I bet he's hungry." The distraction worked. Lily wiggled to be put down and hurried to the kitchen, calling for Max to follow. The German Shepherd rose obediently, limping after her with noticeably more strength than the night before. As Jack prepared to leave for the vet, loading Max carefully into the back of their SUV with Lily's help, Sarah noticed something odd at the edge of their property. Near where they had found Max, a dark car was parked on the county road, just visible through the trees. Someone appeared to be watching the house through binoculars. "Jack," she said quietly, nodding toward the tree line. Jack followed her gaze, his expression hardening when he spotted the vehicle. "Stay with Max and Lily," he said, handing her the car keys. "I'm going to see who our visitor is." But by the time Jack reached the end of their long driveway, the dark car had pulled away, disappearing around a bend in the road. "Did you see who it was?" Sarah asked when he returned. Jack shook his head, a troubled look on his face. "No, but I don't like it." "Maybe it's related to what the sheriff said, about a missing dog." "Maybe," Jack agreed, though he didn't sound convinced. "Let's get to the vet. I'll feel better once we know more about Max's situation." The visit to Dr. Bennett's clinic was both reassuring and concerning. The good news was that Max was generally healthy despite his ordeal. No major injuries beyond the infected paw, which was already responding to their home treatment. The troubling part came when Dr. Bennett scanned him for a microchip. "That's strange," the veterinarian murmured, running the scanner over Max's shoulders a second time. "There was definitely a chip, but it looks like someone removed it. Recently." She pointed to a small, partially healed incision near his shoulder blade. "See this? That's not an accidental injury." Jack frowned. "You're saying someone deliberately removed his identification?" Dr. Bennett nodded grimly. It happens sometimes, usually when someone steals a valuable dog. German Shepherds can be worth a lot, especially if they are trained. Sarah glanced at Lily, who was sitting quietly in the corner of the exam room, watching the proceedings with intense focus. So, someone might be looking for him? Possibly, Dr. Bennett confirmed. But the removal of the chip complicates things. Without identification, he's legally considered a stray. She stroked Max's head. And given the condition you found him in, I'd say whoever had him last doesn't deserve to get him back. Relief washed over Lily's face, and she hurried to Max's side, wrapping her arms around his neck. See, I told you he's ours now. Dr. Bennett smiled at the child's attachment. You've certainly made a friend for life there. She turned back to Jack and Sarah. I'll give you medication for his paw, but otherwise, he just needs good food, rest, and... She glanced meaningfully at Lily, who was whispering to Max, plenty of love. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Bennett pulled Sarah aside. One more thing, she said quietly. This dog has had professional training. The way he responds, how he positions himself. He's not just a pet. He might have been a service dog, or possibly even had police or military training. Sarah thought back to how Max had placed himself between Lily and the door when the sheriff arrived. Is that something we should be concerned about? Dr. Bennett shook her head. Not at all. Trained dogs are usually more reliable and safer around children. I just thought you should know. Whoever had him before invested significant time and money in his training. Which makes it even stranger that someone would abandon him, Jack commented, overhearing the last part of the conversation. Exactly, Dr. Bennett agreed. It doesn't add up. The drive home was quiet, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Max lay in the back seat with his head on Lily's lap, his eyes closed in contentment as she stroked his ears. Only once did he suddenly sit up, alert and wary, when a dark sedan similar to the one they'd seen earlier passed them going the opposite direction. Jack, Sarah said in a low voice. That looked like... I know, Jack replied grimly. I saw it. When they arrived home, Jack did a quick perimeter check of the property, while Sarah took Lily and Max inside. Nothing seemed out of place, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. That night, after Lily was finally persuaded to sleep in her own bed instead of on the floor beside Max, Sarah and Jack sat at the kitchen table, speaking in hushed tones. What do you think is going on? Sarah asked, cradling her tea mug. First the sheriff mentioning a missing dog, then that car watching the house, and now Dr. Bennett saying Max had professional training and someone removed his chip. Jack shook his head, troubled. I don't know, but I don't like it. Something doesn't feel right. Lily seems so certain, Sarah continued. The way she talks about Max, about bad people, it's like she knows something we don't. She's 4, Sarah, Jack reminded her gently. Kids have active imaginations. But what if, Sarah began, then stopped as a sound from the living room caught their attention. Max stood in the doorway, ears pricked forward, a low growl building in his throat. His eyes were fixed not on them, but on the window behind them. Jack slowly rose from his chair. Stay here, he whispered to Sarah, moving carefully toward the kitchen drawer where he kept a flashlight. But before he could reach it, headlights swept across their front yard, illuminating the kitchen for a brief moment. Max's growl deepened. Sarah moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. There's a car pulling up the driveway, she whispered urgently. Jack, I think it's the same one from before. Jack grabbed the flashlight and his phone. Call the sheriff, he instructed, moving toward the front door with Max at his side. The German Shepherd's posture had changed completely. Gone was the injured stray they'd rescued. In his place stood a vigilant guardian, muscles tensed and ready. As Jack reached for the porch light switch, a sharp crack split the night air. The front window shattered, sending glass spraying across the living room floor. Get down! Jack shouted, dropping to the ground and pulling Max with him. Sarah, take Lily and get in the bathroom. Call 911. Sarah was already running toward Lily's room, phone clutched in her shaking hand. Max hesitated, clearly torn between following Sarah to protect Lily and staying with Jack. Go! Jack urged him. Go with them! Understanding seemed to flash in the dog's intelligent eyes. He turned and raced after Sarah, catching up to her just as she reached Lily's bedroom door. Another crack echoed through the house. Not a gunshot, Jack realized with relief, but someone trying to force the front door. He crawled toward the kitchen, staying low, mind racing. Who would attack their home like this? Was it really all about Max? In Lily's room, Sarah frantically shook her daughter awake. "Lily, honey, we need to hide," she whispered urgently. Lily blinked owlishly, then sat bolt upright when she saw Max standing guard at her bedroom door. "They're here," she whispered, her small face pale in the darkness. "The bad people found us." "Who, Lily?" Sarah asked, pulling her daughter from the bed and toward the adjoining bathroom. "Who's here?" But Lily just shook her head, clutching at Max's fur. "He knows," she said simply. "Max knows." And indeed, the German Shepherd's behavior confirmed something was very wrong. He stood rigidly at attention, hackles raised, a continuous growl rumbling from deep in his chest. When Sarah tried to pull him into the bathroom with them, he resisted, positioning himself squarely in the doorway instead, facing out toward the hallway. "He's protecting us," Lily whispered, her eyes wide, "like he did before." Sarah wanted to ask what her daughter meant by before, but the sound of breaking glass from elsewhere in the house silenced her. She clutched Lily close, pressing them both into the bathtub, and dialed 911 with trembling fingers. 911? What's your emergency? The operator's voice seemed impossibly far away. "Someone's breaking into our house," Sarah whispered frantically, giving their address. "My husband's out there, and our daughter is with me. Please hurry." "Officers are on their way," the operator assured her. "Stay on the line. Is there somewhere safe you can—" The operator's voice cut off as a crash sounded from Lily's bedroom, followed by Max's furious barking. Sarah peered around the bathroom door in time to see a dark figure stumble backward as the German Shepherd lunged, teeth bared. "Run, Mommy!" Lily cried, somehow understanding the situation with clarity beyond her years. "The window!" Sarah hesitated only a moment before scooping Lily into her arms and dashing for the small bathroom window. It opened onto the backyard. If she could just get Lily out, get her to safety. Behind them, Max's barking turned into a yelp of pain. Lily screamed, "Max! They're hurting him!" Sarah worked frantically at the window latch, finally forcing it open. "You have to go first, honey," she urged, lifting Lily toward the opening. "Run to Mrs. Peterson's house next door. Don't stop for anything." "But Max," Lily protested. "Daddy and I will help Max," Sarah promised, praying it wasn't a lie. "Go, Lily, now!" With one last anguished look toward the bedroom where Max had fallen silent, Lily allowed herself to be pushed through the narrow window. Sarah watched with her heart in her throat as her daughter dropped safely to the ground and took off running across the moonlit yard. Sarah turned back toward the bathroom door, desperate to know what was happening with Jack and Max. The house had gone eerily quiet. She reached for her phone, only to realize she'd dropped it in her rush to get Lily out the window. "Jack?" she called softly, edging toward the bathroom door. "Max?" No answer came. Fear clawed at her throat as she peered around the doorframe into Lily's darkened bedroom. The shadowy figure was gone, but so was Max. Had he chased the intruder, or had they taken him? Gathering her courage, Sarah crept into the bedroom, straining her eyes in the darkness. Something moved in the corner, a darker shadow against the wall. "Jack?" she whispered again. The shadow shifted, and a low whine answered her. Max, not Jack. Relief flooded through her as she hurried to the dog's side. He was alive, but injured, a dart protruding from his shoulder. Tranquilized, not shot, Sarah realized with a rush of confusion. Why would someone try to capture Max instead of... Her thoughts scattered as heavy footsteps approached from the hallway. Sarah pressed herself against the wall, one hand on Max's slowly rising and falling side. The German Shepherd's eyes were open but unfocused, fighting the sedative. "Did you find the dog?" A harsh whisper from the hallway froze Sarah in place. "Got him with a tranq, but the kid disappeared." Another voice, equally unfamiliar. "Must have gone out the window?" "Forget the kid for now. Grab the dog and let's go. The boss wants him back yesterday." Sarah's mind raced. They were after Max, not the family, not the house, just Max. But why? What made one German Shepherd so valuable that armed men would break into a home to retrieve him? The answer hit her with stunning clarity as she remembered Dr. Bennett's words. This dog has had professional training, possibly even police or military training. "Check the bathroom," the first voice commanded. "Make sure no one's hiding." Footsteps approached the bathroom door. Sarah held her breath, pressing herself deeper into the shadows. Where was Jack? Was he hurt? And Lily? Had she made it to safety? Did anyone know what they were about to lose if they took Max away? Has Lily's special connection with Max revealed a deeper mystery than the Morgans could have imagined? Will Jack be able to protect his family from these mysterious intruders? The footsteps grew closer. Sarah pressed herself further into the shadows, her hands still resting on Max's flank. Despite the tranquilizer, the German Shepherd was fighting to stay conscious, his eyes blinking slowly as he struggled to raise his head. "Stay down, boy," Sarah whispered, barely audible. "Please." A beam of light cut through the darkness as the intruder swept a flashlight across the bedroom. Sarah held her breath, praying the shadows would conceal her. The light passed within inches of her hiding spot, then moved on to the bathroom. "Bathroom's clear," the man called out. "Windows open, though. The woman must have gone out with the kid." "Forget them," came the reply. "Just grab the dog. We've been here too long already." The flashlight beam returned, landing directly on Max. Sarah tensed, preparing to fight. She wouldn't let them take him without a struggle. But before the man could approach, a deafening crash echoed from the front of the house, followed by shouting. "Police! Everybody down! Now!" The intruder cursed, his flashlight beam swinging wildly before going dark. Sarah heard him retreat into the hallway. Shuffling sounds, more shouting, the distinctive sound of a struggle. "Sarah!" Jack's voice called out, strained but strong. "Sarah, are you okay?" "Jack!" Sarah scrambled to her feet, nearly sobbing with relief. "I'm in Lily's room. They shot Max with something. A tranquilizer, I think." Heavy footsteps approached, and then Jack was there, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead, but otherwise unharmed. He wrapped Sarah in a fierce embrace. "Lily?" he asked urgently. "I got her out the bathroom window," Sarah explained, clinging to him. "Told her to run to the Petersons. Is she—" "She's safe," Jack assured her. "Mrs. Peterson called 911 when Lily showed up on her doorstep. That's what saved us. The sheriff was already on his way after we lost contact with the dispatcher." Sheriff Mills appeared in the doorway, guns still drawn. "All clear," he reported. "Got one in custody. The other took off through the back. My deputy's in pursuit." His eyes fell on Max. "They tranked the dog?" Sarah nodded, kneeling beside Max and gently removing the dart from his shoulder. "They were specifically after him. I heard them talking." The sheriff's expression darkened. "That right?" He holstered his weapon and moved closer to examine Max. "Specialist equipment, military-grade tranquilizers. These aren't ordinary dog thieves." "What's going on, Sheriff?" Jack demanded, one arm still protectively around Sarah. "Who are these people?" Sheriff Mills sighed heavily. "I think it's time we had a real conversation. But first, let's get your dog some help and your daughter back home." Within the hour, the Morgan home had transformed into an impromptu command center. Dr. Bennett had been called to treat Max, administering a counteragent to the tranquilizer. The German Shepherd was now resting comfortably in the living room, groggy but recovering, with Lily curled up beside him, refusing to leave his side. Jack, Sarah, and Sheriff Mills sat at the kitchen table, coffee mugs steaming before them, though no one was drinking. "I wasn't entirely honest with you this morning," the sheriff admitted, running a hand over his stubbled chin. "The report about a missing German Shepherd wasn't just some random call. It came from a government facility about 60 miles north of here." "Government facility?" Sarah repeated. "What kind of facility?" "Military training center," the sheriff explained. "They train dogs for special operations, bomb detection, that sort of thing." Jack's eyes widened with understanding. "That's why Dr. Bennett said Max had professional training. He's a military dog." Sheriff Mills nodded. "According to their report, a highly trained shepherd disappeared during a training exercise 3 weeks ago. They claimed he got spooked by something and bolted into the woods. Been searching for him ever since." "But that doesn't make sense," Sarah protested. "We found Max tied to a post with rope. If he was so valuable, why would they abandon him like that?" "That's the part that doesn't add up," the sheriff agreed. "And it gets stranger. The man we caught tonight, he had military ID, but when I called it in, I was told that man has been dead for 2 years. A heavy silence fell over the kitchen as they absorbed this information. Someone's lying, Jack said finally, either about the dog or about who they are. Or both, the sheriff added grimly. A small voice spoke from the doorway. They're all lying. They turned to find Lily standing there, her small face serious in the harsh kitchen light. Lily, Sarah began gently, you should be with Max. Max sent me, Lily said with simple certainty. He wants me to tell you what he told me. The adults exchanged glances. Jack patted the chair next to him. Come here, princess. Tell us what Max said. Lily climbed onto the chair, her legs dangling above the floor. Max wasn't lost, she stated, looking directly at the sheriff. He ran away because they were doing bad things, hurting him, making him do scary stuff. Sheriff Mills leaned forward slightly. What kind of scary stuff, Lily? Lily's brow furrowed in concentration. He doesn't know the words for it, but they put things on him, heavy things that made noise. She mimed something being strapped to her chest. And they made him go into dark places where people were afraid. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Is she saying, bomb detection, the sheriff murmured, or worse? But that's what military dogs do, Jack pointed out. It's their job. Lily shook her head vehemently. Not like that. They were bad people pretending to be good people. Max knew the difference. Sheriff Mills studied Lily with growing interest. How do you know all this, young lady? Did you hear someone talking about it? Max told me, Lily replied simply. Not with words, but I can hear him up here. She tapped her temple. Ever since I first heard him crying in the storm. The sheriff looked to Sarah and Jack, clearly uncertain how to proceed. Jack cleared his throat. Lily's always been intuitive about animals, but this is different. The connection she has with Max, I've never seen anything like it. He protected her tonight, Sarah added softly. When that man came into her room, he knew exactly what to do. Sheriff Mills nodded slowly. I've heard stories about bonds like this. Military handlers sometimes develop almost telepathic connections with their dogs. But a child. He shook his head in wonder. The man you caught, Jack said, bringing them back to more immediate concerns. What did he say? Not much, the sheriff admitted, lawyered up immediately. But his equipment, the tranquilizer gun, it's all military grade. Whoever these people are, they've got resources. And they want Max back badly enough to break into our home, Sarah said, pulling Lily onto her lap protectively. Which means you folks aren't safe here, Sheriff Mills concluded. Not until we figure out what's really going on. We can't just leave, Jack protested. This is our home. I can post a deputy, but... The sheriff was interrupted by the crackle of his radio. He stepped away to answer it, his expression growing increasingly concerned as he listened. What is it? Sarah asked when he returned. That was the station. The prisoner's gone. The sheriff's voice was tight with anger. 2 men in federal agent uniforms showed up with transfer papers. By the time my deputy realized something was off, they were gone. Jack slammed his palm on the table. So they're just going to get away with this? Not if I can help it, Sheriff Mills said grimly. But right now, my priority is keeping your family safe. He turned to Lily. Young lady, can you ask Max if there's anywhere he felt safe before he found you? Lily closed her eyes for a moment, her face scrunched in concentration. When she opened them, she nodded. There was a woman who was nice to him. She lived by water. Big water. She gave him treats and didn't make him wear the heavy things. A woman by water, the sheriff mused. That could be anywhere. Wait, Sarah said suddenly. My sister Emma lives on Lake Meridian, about 3 hours north of here. We could go there. Sheriff Mills nodded approvingly. That might work. Somewhere these people wouldn't immediately connect to you, but you'll need to leave tonight while we've still got them on the defensive. I'll call Emma, Sarah said, reaching for her phone. She won't mind the surprise visit. As Sarah stepped away to make the call, Sheriff Mills leaned closer to Jack. There's something bigger going on here, he said in a low voice. Military IDs, government claims, high-tech equipment. This isn't about one stolen dog. What do you think it is? Jack asked, equally quiet. I don't know, the sheriff admitted. But whatever Max was involved in, someone's desperate to make sure he doesn't, well, talk. He glanced significantly at Lily, who was whispering to Max in the living room. Jack followed his gaze, understanding dawning. You think they're afraid of the connection between them? that Lily might learn something they don't want known. It's the only explanation that makes sense, Sheriff Mills confirmed, which means you need to get her and Max somewhere safe until I can unravel this mess. Sarah returned, her face relieved. Emma says we can come. She'll have the guest rooms ready. Good, the sheriff approved. Pack light, just essentials. I'll have a deputy drive you in an unmarked car. Less chance of being followed that way. Within an hour, the Morgans were ready to leave. Lily sat in the back seat of the deputy's SUV, Max's head resting on her lap. The German Shepherd had recovered enough to walk on his own, though he still moved with caution. Dr. Bennett had assured them the tranquilizer would wear off completely by morning. Sarah climbed in beside her daughter, while Jack took the passenger seat up front. Sheriff Mills approached Jack's window for a final word. I'll be in touch as soon as I know anything, he promised. In the meantime, keep a low profile. No social media, no calls to friends. As far as anyone knows, you're just visiting family. Jack nodded grimly. Thanks, Sheriff, for everything. One more thing, Sheriff Mills added, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small device and handed it to Jack. GPS tracker. Keep it with Max at all times. If anything happens, if they somehow find you, we'll be able to track his location. Jack slipped the device into his pocket. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. The sheriff stepped back, allowing the deputy to pull away from the curb. As they drove through the quiet streets of Pine Hollow, Sarah glanced back at their home, wondering when or if they would return. The journey to Lake Meridian was tense but uneventful. Lily eventually fell asleep, her small hand tangled in Max's fur. The German Shepherd remained alert despite his ordeal, eyes constantly moving between windows as if watching for potential threats. Emma was waiting on her porch when they pulled up just after midnight, her face lined with worry. She embraced Sarah tightly, then Jack. I made up all the beds, she said, leading them inside, and I've got soup warming on the stove if anyone's hungry. Thank you, Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. I'm sorry to bring all this to your doorstep. Emma waved away her concern. Your family. Where else would you go? Her eyes fell on Max as Jack helped the still groggy dog from the car. So this is the famous Max. Famous? Jack questioned. Well, a dog that causes armed men to break into your house, I'd say that makes him pretty famous. Emma smiled to soften her words. He's a handsome fellow. Lily, sleepy but still protective, kept a hand on Max's back as they entered the house. He needs water, she murmured, and somewhere quiet to sleep. The mudroom off the kitchen has a nice rug, Emma offered. We can set up a bed for him there. But Lily shook her head firmly. He sleeps with me. He needs to protect me. The adults shared a glance over her head. After the night's events, none of them felt inclined to argue. The deputy who had driven them declined Emma's offer to stay the night. Need to get back and help the sheriff, he explained, but I'll have a colleague check in tomorrow, just as a precaution. After he left, Emma showed them to their rooms, Lily and Sarah in one, Jack in another. The lakeside house was spacious and cozy, with large windows that would offer beautiful views come morning. Despite her exhaustion, Sarah found sleep elusive. She lay awake, listening to Lily's soft breathing and Max's occasional sighs from his position at the foot of the bed. Her mind raced with unanswered questions. Who were these people so desperate to retrieve Max? What had he been involved in that made him so valuable? And how had Lily formed such an intense connection with him? Across the hallway, Jack was having similar thoughts. He'd positioned a chair beneath the doorknob. A meager defense, but better than nothing. The weight of the GPS tracker in his pocket reminded him of the sheriff's concerns. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Morning came with pale sunlight reflecting off the lake's surface, casting dancing patterns across the ceiling. For a moment, Sarah could almost believe they were simply on vacation, until she remembered the events that had brought them here. She found Emma in the kitchen, coffee already brewed, a spread of breakfast foods on the counter. You didn't have to do all this, Sarah protested. Emma shrugged. Cooking helps me think. And we have a lot to think about, don't we? Before Sarah could respond, Lily appeared in the doorway, Max at her heels. The German Shepherd looked significantly improved, alert and steady on his feet, though still cautious in his movements. Morning, sweetheart, Sarah greeted her. How's Max feeling? Better, Lily replied, stroking Max's head. The medicine is gone from his body now, but he's still worried. About what? Emma asked, setting a glass of orange juice in front of Lily. Lily took a small sip before answering. The bad people know about me now. They know I can hear him. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. What do you mean, honey? Max says they have special things that listen from far away, Lily explained. They heard us talking at home. That's how they knew where to find him. Jack appeared in the kitchen doorway in time to catch this last statement. Surveillance equipment, he translated grimly. They must have been monitoring our house before the break-in. Emma's eyes widened. You mean they could have heard everything you said? About Max, about Lily's connection with him? Jack nodded, his expression grave, which means they know exactly what makes Max so valuable now. It's not just the dog they want anymore. All eyes turned to Lily, who continued calmly eating her breakfast, seemingly untroubled by the adult's concern. Max sat beside her chair, his posture alert but relaxed, at least until a boat engine roared to life somewhere on the lake. The German Shepherd was instantly on his feet, a low growl building in his throat as he moved to the window overlooking the water. Lily joined him, standing on tiptoes to see. Just a fishing boat, Emma assured them. The lake's popular with anglers, especially this early. Max continued to stare, his body tense. Lily placed a hand on his back, her face becoming serious, as she seemed to listen to something only she could hear. He doesn't like boats, she said finally. The bad people put him on a boat once. It was dark, and he couldn't get out. Sarah and Jack exchanged worried glances. Lily, Sarah began carefully, did Max tell you anything else about the bad people? Anything that might help us understand what they want? Lily considered the question, her hand never leaving Max's fur. They took him from his real handler, she said eventually, a man named Michael who was nice to him. They hurt Michael and took Max away in a big truck. His handler was harmed? Jack clarified, his concern deepening. Lily nodded solemnly. Max tried to protect him, but they used the sleeping medicine on him too. When he woke up, Michael was gone, and he was with the bad people. Did Max tell you what the bad people made him do? Sarah asked hesitantly, not sure she wanted to hear the answer. They put the heavy things on him, Lily replied, and made him go into buildings where people were afraid. He didn't want to, but they hurt him when he tried to run away. Bomb detection, Jack murmured. But why would a legitimate military operation need to kidnap a trained dog? They have their own. Unless it wasn't legitimate, Emma suggested, her voice hushed. You said the man they caught had a fake military ID? That's what the sheriff told us, Sarah confirmed. So we're potentially dealing with... what? Terrorists? Mercenaries? Emma's face had gone pale. Whatever they are, they're dangerous, Jack stated grimly. And now they know about Lily's connection to Max. The weight of this realization settled heavily over the kitchen. If these people were willing to break into a family home to retrieve a dog, what would they do to get their hands on a child who could seemingly communicate with animals? The peaceful lake house suddenly felt much less secure. What do we do now? Sarah asked, watching as Lily led Max back to her side, murmuring reassurances that only he could understand. We wait to hear from Sheriff Mills, Jack decided, and we keep Lily and Max close at all times. He turned to Emma. I'm sorry to bring this danger to your home. Emma squared her shoulders. Family protects family. Period. She moved to a drawer and pulled out a key. My late husband's hunting rifle is in the hall closet. I'm going to get it out, just in case. As Emma left to retrieve the weapon, Sarah moved to the window, scanning the placid lake surface. Fishing boats dotted the water, all of them seemingly innocent. But after everything they'd learned, could they trust appearances? Max padded up beside her, his warm body pressing against her leg in a gesture that felt surprisingly comforting. Sarah reached down to stroke his head, noticing the intelligence in his eyes as he gazed up at her. Whatever secrets this remarkable animal held, whatever horrors he had witnessed, he was now irrevocably part of their family, their protector as much as they are protected. We'll figure this out, she promised him softly. We'll keep you safe, all of us. Max's tail wagged once, a gesture of trust that brought unexpected tears to Sarah's eyes. Whatever came next, they would face it together. For now, they waited. For answers. For safety. For justice. And somewhere out there, the people who had hurt Max were waiting too, Who are these mysterious people after Max? And what dark secrets could a German shepherd possibly know? How far will they go to reclaim what they believe is theirs? The day passed with agonizing slowness. Sheriff Mills called once to confirm they had arrived safely, but had little new information to share. The man who'd been captured during the break-in had vanished completely, along with his supposed federal escorts. The trail had gone cold. "But I've got some contacts looking into that military training facility," the sheriff added. "Something's not adding up there. I'll call as soon as I know more." Jack thanked him and hung up, the knot in his stomach tightening. The answers they needed seemed to be slipping further away. Emma's lakeside home, normally a peaceful retreat, now felt like a fortress under siege. Jack checked the doors and windows repeatedly. Sarah kept Lily within arm's reach at all times. Max remained vigilant, his posture changing at every unusual sound. By afternoon, the strain of constant alertness was wearing on all of them. Emma suggested they at least try to enjoy the lake while they waited for news. "There's a small cove on the east side," she explained, spreading a local map on the kitchen table. "Very private. My nearest neighbor is a half-mile away in that direction. We could take the rowboat out, maybe have a little picnic. Give Lily a chance to play." Sarah looked skeptical. "Is it safe?" "Safer than sitting in here driving ourselves crazy," Emma pointed out, "and the fresh air might do us all good." Jack studied the map, considering the tactical advantages. The cove was sheltered on 3 sides by dense forest, with only the lakeside open, which meant they would see anyone approaching by water. And after the tension of the morning, a change of scenery might indeed help them think more clearly. "All right," he decided, "but we stay together, and we bring the phone and—" He patted his pocket where the GPS tracker rested. "Everything else." The small cove turned out to be even more secluded than Emma had described. Tall pines ringed a crescent of sandy beach, their shadows providing relief from the afternoon sun. The water lapped gently at the shore, crystal clear and invitingly cool. For the first time since they'd found Max, Lily seemed to relax. She kicked off her shoes and ran along the water's edge, laughing as the wavelets chased her toes. Max followed, his initial wariness giving way to playful bounds. The transformation in the German shepherd was remarkable. With Lily, in this moment, he was simply a dog enjoying a summer day. "Look at them," Sarah murmured, spreading a blanket on the sand. "You'd never know what they've been through." Jack nodded, his eyes never completely leaving the tree line. Kids and dogs, they live in the moment. It's a gift. Emma unpacked a simple lunch, sandwiches, fruit, and homemade cookies. "Come and eat," she called to Lily, who came running, Max trotting at her heels. As they ate, a comfortable silence fell over the group. The gentle sounds of the lake, water lapping at the shore, birds calling from the trees, a distant boat motor fading in and out, created a soothing backdrop. Despite everything, Jack found himself relaxing slightly. After lunch, Lily convinced Jack to help her build a sandcastle. Max watched their efforts with interest, occasionally pawing gently at the structures as they rose. "He's trying to help," Lily explained, giggling as Max accidentally demolished a tower. "He's never built a castle before." "Never?" Jack asked, playing along. "Well, that's a shame. Every dog should build at least one sandcastle in his life." Sarah watched from the blanket, her heart simultaneously full and fearful. In moments like this, the danger seemed distant, unreal, but she couldn't forget what had happened at their home, couldn't forget the determination of the people who wanted Max back. "She's special, isn't she?" Emma said quietly, following Sarah's gaze to Lily. "The way she is with Max, I've never seen anything like it." Sarah nodded. "It's like they share a language none of us understand." She hesitated, then voiced the fear that had been growing since the previous night. "What if these people want her too, Emma? Not just Max. What if they realize how unique she is?" Emma squeezed her sister's hand. "Then they'll have to go through all of us first." The afternoon wore on, the sun beginning its slow descent toward the horizon. Lily and Max had curled up together for a nap, both exhausted from their play. Jack sat nearby, keeping watch, while Sarah and Emma collected the remains of their picnic. "We should head back soon," Jack said, checking his watch. "I don't want to be out after dark." Sarah nodded, beginning to fold the blanket. "Should I wake Lily?" "Let her rest a few more minutes," Jack suggested. "She needs it after—" Max's head suddenly shot up, his ears pricked forward, body instantly alert. A low growl vibrated in his chest as he stared into the trees behind them. "What is it, boy?" Jack asked, rising to his feet and scanning the forest edge. "Sarah, get Lily." Sarah moved quickly to her daughter's side, ready to scoop her up at the first sign of danger. Emma stepped closer to Jack, her eyes darting from Max to the trees and back. "Could be just a deer," she whispered. "This area has lots of wildlife." But Max's behavior suggested otherwise. He had positioned himself between Lily and the perceived threat, his teeth bared, hackles raised. This wasn't the reaction of a dog who had spotted a woodland creature. Lily stirred, rubbing her eyes as she sat up. "What's wrong with Max?" "Shh, honey," Sarah soothed, pulling her daughter close. "We need to be very quiet right now." Jack took a step toward the tree line, trying to spot whatever had triggered Max's alarm. The forest was dense, shadows already deepening as the sun lowered. If someone was watching them, they could be just feet away, completely hidden by the thick undergrowth. Then he saw it. A brief flash of movement among the trees, too controlled to be an animal. Someone was definitely there. "We need to go," Jack said quietly, backing toward the rowboat. "Now." Sarah lifted Lily into her arms, while Emma quickly gathered their remaining belongings. Max remained focused on the trees, his growl deepening. They had almost reached the boat when a voice called out from the forest. "Please, wait! I'm not going to hurt you!" Jack froze, placing himself between his family and the unknown voice. "Show yourself!" he demanded. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the branches parted, and a man stepped onto the beach. He was tall and lean, dressed in faded jeans and a dark jacket that had seen better days. His face was gaunt, with several days' worth of stubble shadowing his jaw. But it was his eyes that caught Jack's attention. Haunted, exhausted eyes that had seen too much. Most surprising was Max's reaction. The German Shepherd's aggressive stance had vanished. His tail began to wag, slowly at first, then with increasing enthusiasm. "Michael!" Lily whispered, her eyes wide. "It's Michael!" The man's head snapped toward Lily, shock written across his features. "How do you know my name?" "Max told me," Lily replied simply. "He said you were his real handler, that the bad people hurt you." Michael's legs seemed to give way beneath him. He sank to his knees on the sand, staring at Max with disbelief and something close to reverence. "Viper," he whispered, using what must have been Max's original name. "My God, I thought they'd killed you." Max, or Viper, broke away from Lily and bounded toward Michael, all caution forgotten. The reunion that followed brought tears to Sarah's eyes. The German Shepherd whined and pressed against the man, tail whipping back and forth with joy, while Michael buried his face in the dog's fur, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "I don't understand," Jack said, still wary despite Max's obvious recognition. "Who are you?" Michael looked up, one hand still tangled in Max's fur, as if afraid to let go. "My name is Michael Reeves. I am a trainer with the K-9 Special Operations Unit at Fort Benning. Viper was my partner." He stroked the dog's head. "Until they took him from me." "The bad people," Lily supplied, wriggling out of Sarah's grasp to approach. "The ones who put heavy things on him and made him go into scary buildings." Michael's gaze sharpened as he studied Lily. "How do you know about that? How do you know any of this?" "She can communicate with him somehow," Jack explained, moving closer to his daughter. "She's been able to since we found him tied to a post during a storm." "You're the family who rescued him," Michael realized. "I've been tracking reports of a German Shepherd matching Viper's description for weeks. When I heard about a break-in involving a shepherd in Pine Hollow," he shrugged. "It was my best lead." "But who were they?" Sarah asked, joining them cautiously. "The men who broke into our home? Who were these bad people?" Michael's expression darkened. "They call themselves Cerberus, private military contractors, officially, but some of their operations push well beyond legal boundaries." He scratched behind Max's ear, a familiar gesture that made the dog lean into his touch. 6 months ago, they approached our unit commander with a proposal to borrow some of our best-trained dogs for what they claimed were security demonstrations. "But that wasn't true," Emma guessed. Michael shook his head grimly. "The first few dogs came back traumatized, refusing commands, aggressive. When I started asking questions, things got complicated." His hand drifted to his side, where Sarah noticed a subtle stiffness in his movements that suggested healing injuries. "They attacked you," Jack stated rather than asked. "Ambushed me during a training exercise," Michael confirmed. "Took Viper. I wasn't supposed to survive to report it. When I did, I discovered the unit commander was in on it. Buried my report, claimed I'd been injured in an accident, and that Viper had run away, likely dead in the woods." "But you kept looking for him," Lily said. It wasn't a question. Michael nodded, his eyes softening as he looked at the child. "He's more than a dog to me. He's my partner, my responsibility." He turned back to Jack and Sarah. "When I realized Cerberus was after him again, I knew I had to find him first. I've been watching your house since yesterday, but you left before I could make contact." "You've been following us?" Jack tensed. "Not exactly," Michael explained. "I placed a tracker on the sheriff's patrol car when he visited your house the first time. Led me to your property, but by the time I got there, you were already gone. Took me a while to pick up your trail again." Sarah's protective instincts flared. "How do we know you're really who you say you are? That this isn't some trick to get Max, Viper, back?" In answer, Michael reached slowly into his jacket, removing a worn leather wallet. He flipped it open to reveal a military ID and several photos. Michael in uniform, with a slightly younger-looking Max at his side. "We've been together since he was 18 months old. Trained him myself." Max, they still couldn't think of him as Viper, pressed closer to Michael, his entire demeanor confirming the man's story more convincingly than any ID could. Lily approached, fearless as always, and placed a small hand on Michael's arm. "He missed you," she said seriously. "He was scared the bad people hurt you too bad to find him." Michael stared at the child in wonder. "You really can understand him, can't you?" Lily nodded. "Not like talking, more like feelings and pictures in my head." Jack and Sarah exchanged glances. The situation had just become even more complicated. If Michael was telling the truth, and Max's reaction suggested he was, then they were entangled in something far larger and more dangerous than they had imagined. "We should continue this conversation somewhere more secure," Jack decided, glancing at the darkening sky. "Emma's house?" Emma nodded agreement. "It's getting dark anyway. We need to get back." As they loaded into the rowboat, Sarah noticed Max. She still couldn't think of him as Viper. Divided his attention between Lily and Michael, moving between them as if unable to choose. For her part, Lily seemed completely accepting of Michael's appearance, as if she'd expected him all along. Perhaps, through Max, she had. Back at the lake house, over a hastily prepared dinner, Michael filled in more details of his story. Cerberus, he explained, had been using the borrowed military dogs for operations that even private military contractors wouldn't touch, entering buildings rigged with potential explosives, detecting chemical weapons in disputed territories, operations with high fatality risks. "But that's what military dogs do," Jack pointed out. "It's dangerous work." Michael shook his head. "Military K-9S operate under strict protocols. Their handlers never send them into situations